Alright, what is the Dirac propagator? I was watching Alain Connes last night. He received the Fields Medal in 1982, and the Fields Medal is the top award in mathematics, and it's harder to receive than the Nobel Prize. I think you have to be under 35 to win the Fields Medal. And he did his PhD in around that same time on the origin of evolution of the passing of time as energy from noncommutativity. So this is what I was referring to in my video yesterday when I talked about how proto-consciousness is not random. So he's saying that that time, when we perceive time as passing as a linear causality, which is the basis of relativity and external measurements in time, we assume time is passing, or there's time is moving. And he says this is the typical origin of a variable in science, a variable in mathematics as a physics term. But in reality, time emerges from non-commutativity. So how is this possible? And what he's saying is that the non-commutativity is the only thing. First of all, it's discrete. Second of all, it's spectral, which means it's based on frequency. So there's no spatial coordinate system as a distance between two objects. And so he said the problem in relativity is that you have to, when you measure the distance to an object, then you have to return back to the origin distance, and that's where the inherent symmetric space arises in Western science. You have to assume there's a symmetry to the space as a time measurement. And in non-commutativity, instead of having a spatial length, the length is a chord as found in music. It's a chord based on frequency and not on spatial measurement. And so this is what he calls the Dirac Propagator. But in physics, it's called the Fermion Propagator. And the fermion has 1/2 spin, which means that the 1/2 spin exists inherently in the fifth dimension as non-locality before the collapse of the wave function. So the Dirac propagator, or Fermion propagator, is the inverse of the Dirac operator in relativistic quantum physics. And the Dirac operator is the basis of mass as a squaring value. And this is where the two sphere comes in, the concept of the two sphere. So you're combining the a mass point is a combination of the two 1/2 spins. So you have to combine the two 1/2 spins to get an external measurement. And you do this by using the 2x2 matrices. So when you use the 2x2 matrices, the imaginary number is the basis of the non-commutativity, so that the order of the coordinates are not symmetric, and then they're multiplied by the imaginary number, which is the square root of -1. And so this is precisely what math professor Lou Kaufman also explains, is that what he calls primordial time is a process of the algebra of time from the imaginary number. And so the coordinates are then the frequencies as the inverse of the wavelength of light. And so Alain Connes points out that ever since the 1960s in physics, the standard for the length of the meter has been based on the wavelength as a quantum momentum wavelength. And first it was krypton, and now it's casium, Caesium. He pronounced it casium, I think. And then he said that eventually the standard for the meter will have to be based on I think he said the microwave background radiation, because it's everywhere in the universe. Or maybe he said hydrogen. I don't know. I couldn't understand that word, but at any rate, let's see. So yeah, I think he's talking about the thermal background radiation, and so then basically the origin of evolution is due to the non-commutativity as a cycle or resonance of frequency before there is the passing of time as linear causality. So therefore the past and the future overlap in the fifth dimension. But because it's a zero spin, it has to be a zero spin between the two 1/2 spins. So the 1/2 spin is a fifth dimension, but when you combine the two 1/2 spins of the two quantum sphere, then you're actually in the sixth dimension. So that's how he says that this means that the non-commutativity directly connects relativity with gauge theory that ties it to matter, to the creation of matter for the standard model. So he's able to create the unified field model. But originally it's the two sphere with the 2x2 matrices. And then he uses the the torus, uh, the non-commutative torus as the geometric model, which again is also from music theory, or music theory also uses the non-commutative torus. If you study my book on where I quote Alain Connes, and then I give the music theory version of the non-commutative torus. And so he uses the frequencies of 2 and 3 as the original frequencies, and then he says that the difference between the two frequencies as a phase shift has to be less than or equal to 1, because the 1 is the value of the 2 sphere, so that the theta as the angle of the sphere is as the irrational number, which would be 2 pi, is then canceled out, and so then what remains is the 2 by 2 frequency coordinates against the imaginary number as the square root of 1. And so that's the mathematics as the physics in simple language, as far as I can explain it, because I have to use simple language since I'm not a scientist and I'm just studying the concepts. But I found this was based on an Alain Connes lecture that I had not seen before, or it might have just been a different camera used to film the same lecture. I couldn't find the recording that I thought I saw before, or I don't know where that was. I can't remember, but at any rate, this ties directly back into meditation, because in meditation we're using the frequency of light and the differences between the frequency as color, because color is based on the wavelength of light as a frequency change, and then this is tied directly to music theory as the source of the sound. And so he's saying this is how our brain works. Our brain is he says you can, usually in physics it's considered a Lagrangian transform, but he discovered that the Lagrangian transform is equivalent to the Fourier transform. It's just that the Fourier transform is based on space-time itself and not an axiom, so that the uncertainty principle in quantum physics originates from non-commutativity as the inner products of the matrices, of the 2 by 2 matrices. And so the uncertainty arises from the non-commutativity, this is before the linear passing of time. So he says that music actually enables us to perceive the origin of the passing of time, and that's why he plays piano and he studies music, and he even publishes music compositions as part of his research. So music is not just an analogy for him, but it is an inspiration and a means of explaining his mathematics, which makes sense because Luigi Borzicchini proved that mathematics originates from music theory, Western mathematics. And I've gone into the detail on that, and I've corresponded with Borzicchini about that. And so he agrees, it's non-commutative math. Also explains the secret. He thanked me for my non-commutative music math analysis. And so then this ties into Roger Penrose's quantum biology model with Stuart Hameroff. And then the Stuart Hameroff, he ties it to the paranormal as spirituality. And so did Olivier Costa de Beauregard, who was relying on his mentor, Louis de Broglie, who used the law of phase harmony. And the law of phase harmony is the same exact thing. It's based on the phase difference between the frequency as the origin of relativity. So it's a critique of relativity based on quantum physics. It's pretty fascinating how Alain Connes has corroborated Louis de Broglie's law of phase harmony. And then Basil J. Hiley's argument is that there's no need to convert back to symmetric commutative algebra or commutative geometry, that the non-commutativity just keeps resonating into the macro scale, and that's the basis of the non-Western alchemy as meditation also. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, and just want to thank Alain Connes for his fascinating research and his reliance on music theory to explain his research. He's given that Music of Spheres lecture now. I think there's three or four different versions on YouTube, and one version has 2 different recordings of it. So he's repeated the same lecture several times over the past 20 years. So it's pretty awesome. Thanks.